Hello world! I've been noticing something in today's media. Both in music and in movies, it seems that we're kind of buying the same thing over and over again. For the first time ever, we're kind of having this Marvel Cinematic Universe that lots of other studios are now trying to replicate. But if we break down the general plot lines, we find that all movies are just kind of finding the same structure, and there are only different ways to tell the same story. You know, the hero's journey. Some unsuspecting person is swept up into a bigger story and realizes that they have more power than they could ever imagine. And most plots are told within the same 90 minutes to 2.5 hour length. There's only so much you can do with that, right? To hold suspense and to show a resolution, as well as songs. You know, a lot of them ranging from 3 to 5 minutes. All of the most popular music, kind of with a set beat that you can kind of fill in the blanks with. Sing about whatever you want, as long as you have some good bass, some good beats to it, and some redundancy. That's what people like and dance to. So when we're in a time where so much of our entertainment is produced in a similar format, you know, a same boilerplate plot and format of music. Plus, you know, when you start to look at YouTube videos like mine, I've been standing in the same place for all my tech videos for over a year now. Hello World has been this same angle ever since it started. And even on shows that are more complicated, like Good Mythical Morning, they start to become a bit more template-like. Funny joke happens here, Rhett says something here, Link says something here, here's the challenge. They sit there, they talk, they interact, they laugh, they go home. So some people are kind of asking the question, especially when it comes to Hollywood, with there being so many sequels and remakes these days, are we as humanity running out of ideas in general? Is there not really that much original content anymore? And is this only going to get worse in the future? Perhaps there won't be that much original music or original stories to tell in the upcoming century, because it seems like we only can tell the same stories to ourselves over and over again. Just look at Star Wars Episode 7, telling the same story as A New Hope that came out 40 years ago. Still a really great story, and I enjoy both. A New Hope was a great movie, and so is The Force Awakens, but is this really as far as humanity can go? Are we truly out of all ideas when it comes to music, stories, and forms of media? There's only so much we can expand on. It's not like Talos of Tech is the most original channel. It takes what you know and adds a little spin on things, you know, being the Apple sheep. But for the most part, everything I've done has really been done before. Even the idea of a Talos of network, a network of channels, all with different genres, that's been done. Having more than one channel with the same people running it has been done before. But I tend to look at things, as you guys know, a little bit differently. And I want to point this blame back on you and say that it's not just Hollywood that is causing this problem. It's not just the artists of the music industry being untalented or unoriginal. As someone who is now a content creator, I have to attest to the fact that companies actually have to make what they know we want. A lot of people would agree that media shapes society, but quite often I do think the opposite happens, and society shapes media. Because they know that they need to sell things, which in this case may be music, stories, and on YouTube it'll just be channels and personalities in general. They have to sell what they know works. And how did they figure out what works? By trial and error, and by looking at other people who have been successful. In other words, we like to make fun of Justin Bieber a lot, but clearly he had to have had some major form of fans that got him where he is today. He didn't sell his items to no one. A producer picked him up, sold his content, and it did well, and it's still doing well. So in that way, as a society, we as people chose an individual that we thought was talented and entertaining and lifted them up. And the same story goes with any successful media conglomerate. Disney, I think, is the biggest one out there, being the owner of Marvel, Star Wars, and of course Disney Animation. You know, you almost got a monopoly when the same company owns Frozen, Tangled, Star Wars, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah, they got everything there. They are making movies because they have a format that works. People who watch movies from the MCU know that there is a simple format you have to fill out when making a Marvel film. You have to hit all the same beats, you have to put jokes at the right times, with a story that has a semi-interesting twist, with witty humor, and by the end of the film, people will have a smile on their face and they'll walk out saying they enjoyed it. They figured that out with Iron Man, and they've been applying that same template to all of their films ever since then. We start to catch on though. You know, when I watch Doctor Strange and I watch Spider-Man, they're not bad movies. You know, I enjoyed them, but still, I can notice that checklist format of telling a story. You make jokes here, you have a plot that moves along this fast, and we move on. It starts to get a little old, yes. We're still gonna watch it, but we're not gonna be in love as much as we used to. You know, when is there going to be the next Star Wars? And I'm not talking about Episode 8 or The Last Jedi. I'm talking about when will there be a new property that gets people excited more than they ever have been before, that launches an entire fandom like Star Wars did. It's over 40 years since the first one came out, and now that audience is enormous, bigger than any other fandom. When is anything gonna top that if all we make is sequels and remakes? When will there be a fandom any larger than that, if not that many original stories are told? Potentially never, but I don't want film students or anyone in the industry really to point at the big guys and say that this is their fault. Because of the current condition in the industry, there is no way you can make original stories. Because first of all, feature films that show in movie theaters take a lot of money and time to invest in. That's why distributors do all the work in terms of marketing and paying for the entire film project, or producers creating musical albums for singers. There is a lot at stake there. There are people with jobs, and now there are unions there ensuring that they have to get paid this much. And when there's so many people working in that industry, you can't take giant risks. So perhaps a dumb story about a guy with a chainsaw that wants to fight a giant spider, maybe that has the potential to be the next great fandom, as stupid as it may seem. That might have the potential to be the next great story and the next big thing for everyone to get excited for. But of course, big producers and people with money are not going to invest in it because it sounds dumb and it's not going to sell well. No one has heard of this property before, so they know if they put it in theaters, marketing it is instantly more difficult because it is not a pre-existing property. That's why you see so many remakes and sequels right now. It's because when they put it on the screen, whether it's advertising online or on TV, they know people will go, oh hey, I know what that is, and it'll stick with them a bit more than something that's a brand new property, something they've never heard of. That's a lot harder to advertise to. And because these companies are getting so big and so many people want to work on these movies, now with, like 100,000 people being involved in Avengers, between animators and actors and sets in different units working on all different parts of the world, filming movies at different times because the MCU has like 3 movies come out every year now. To ensure that all of these people get paid, people that have families, it kind of makes sense to me that businesses can't make big leaps and big risks because they don't know if they're going to get a profit in return in which they can pay all of their employees. So yes, in a way, the current infrastructure of the industry does not allow a certain amount of originality, but it's not because I think everyone is super greedy. I think they're just trying to be safe. You could almost look at the job of the producers of both music and movies right now as people gambling in a casino. They want to place their bets on something safely so they don't put too much of their money in one thing, and they want to make sure that what they place their bets on makes money in return. A lot of this is a gamble. If you didn't know, the making of Star Wars was very complicated because the studio did not think it would do very well, and they didn't want to give it too much money. They ended up being extremely worried about it, and they were thinking that A New Hope would fail and flop at the box office. Obviously it didn't, but the basic pitch of the Star Wars story did not sound like a bestseller. Guy with laser sword attempts to kill father. Space battles occur. Back then, with the level of special effects there were, that was not a good idea. They did not want to give that a ton of money. So while yes, I can agree that in terms of creating content, it may not feel like there's that much original stuff produced anymore, but I personally think the industry is changing a lot right now that is going to allow more original ideas and unique approaches to storytelling is going to come back. The internet is allowing that to happen. And I personally do think that we've been telling stories for thousands of years, and most of them have actually been the same. This is not a 21st century problem. It's been a problem ever since humanity has been entertaining ourselves with stories. There's been ancient Greek tales of gods battling each other out that take shape in the form of Lion King, which technically is an original title with original characters and an original way of telling the story, but it's really the story humanity told itself centuries ago. And you could say the same about superhero movies. There's been plenty of stories like Hercules in the past, just simply about someone being more powerful than they realize and being called into action. And that is still the majority of what superhero movies are today. So I do not think originality is dead because I think humans find creative ways to tell stories in how they spin it and how they make something more interesting, how they can make characters more relatable and interesting. And similar to services like Netflix, they now have the option of telling a story in more than 2.5 hours. I hope everyone watching this has had a chance to see Stranger Things. It's a really great show, and it's getting a season 2 this Halloween, which I am totally psyched to see. But what I love about that show is that it feels like a book. It feels like a novel. It kind of flows like one seamless story, like it should be one movie, and yet it takes like 6.5 hours to get through the whole thing. So you really get to know every single character, follow every single plot line very closely. And by the end, you really want to root for the main characters, and you really feel like you've been on a journey with them. That's what I love about all these Netflix originals. There's no commercials getting in the way. It's just pure good storytelling, and they don't have to abide by the same rules as Hollywood. The producers at Netflix really want the creators, the Duffer Brothers for Stranger Things, plus there's tons of other shows out there. They want to give their creators full control because that's how they know they can get a single unique vision with little producer intervention, as we've seen at Disney. Producers getting involved in how the story is told is very obvious with the DC films like Suicide Squad and Dawn of Justice. It clearly shows that the producers are trying to hit a checklist and they're making an incoherent story. Hopefully they're learning, like with Wonder Woman, which was a good movie. But I love this idea that in the future, because of the internet, giving a voice to anyone who wants to speak their mind, the cream of the crop, the people with actual interesting things to say, will rise up and have their audience grow, so more and more people can hear what they have to say. And I know you may be thinking I should have uploaded this to Taylosive Movie Reviews, but this does kind of pertain more to me and my lifestyle, because as I've mentioned, I do want to tell stories, and some people look at filmmaking as a way of telling a good story that people find entertaining or thought-provoking. Some people get into show business and movie making because they see it as a business of how that business can grow and you can have more money and make as many movies as you want. I look at it as a format of power. Society does shape the media, but I do still think media does shape society in a lot of ways. The media can control how people think and how people treat certain topics, and you can do that without making, a news show. You can do that with storytelling and making characters that people relate to, and it can change you, as movies and TV shows have changed me as I've grown up. That's why I want to get into filmmaking. I feel like there are messages and morals people need to hear, and I think because of YouTube and Netflix and Amazon Prime, whoever you want to say, they're allowing artists and creators to bend the way stories have been told for so long, and we're finally going to see people dive deeper into delivering a message and making media actually powerful, and how people talk about it and how people respond to it in the real world. So I hope that gave you a little bit of hope. I do not think originality is dead. There is a very basic template that all of us humans have in our minds already of how do you tell a story or how you write a song, and I think if we were to change that, we wouldn't be interested in it anymore. We wouldn't get entertainment value out of it if we changed the very template that it's built on. But what changes is the way we tell it, the way we sing. A lot of people today, for instance, with music would say that dubstep is disgusting, but back before they were born, most people would have said electric guitar music is obnoxious and annoying. It's just the method of how we play our music. Some people love that guitar riff and hearing old classic rock music, and some people love hearing that really articulate synthesizer that is dubstep. It's just different sounds with people having different tastes. And I think the stories I want to tell in my future are going to be similar. They're going to follow a simple template that we've seen in the past, but the way I tell it will be different and unique, and that's what people are going to find interesting about. Star Wars, if you look at even older stories, is not even that original. So I hope you found something thought-provoking or interesting in today's video. Let me know what you think, of course, in the comments below. Thanks for watching this one, guys, and I hope you have an excellent day. Take care.